welcome to my video about joysticks for the Amiga. My name is Kenny and I'm an Amiga owner. I've had an Amiga since the 80s, maybe early 90s, and this is a video which I made because joysticks for me used to keep breaking and I used to have to do repairs on them and try to take apart joysticks and replace parts, and so this is a tutorial of how to fix yours if you need them. So I guess a few basics. What type of joysticks are there? First of all, you have something like this, which is the Cruiser. See that there? I think the name shows up there. So this is a basic enough one. There's one micro switch in here which does the two buttons, and then like that, that's the Cruiser. Then you would have something like this, which is the Sure Shot. I bought this last year at a Amiga Ireland meetup, and I had to change it because the micro switches were very tight inside. But at the moment it's good, so that's good, and it's nice and loose also. And then you have what I think is the best joystick for any type of console. This is the Zipstick. This is my pride and joy. It's just, I think it's amazing. I think it's a perfect joystick. So they're the type of joysticks which generally you'll see on gaming consoles or retro gaming consoles. So what is a joystick? A joystick is something which is used, obviously, as you'll know, press buttons, which hits a micro switch. You press the button, hits a micro switch, and the micro switch sends a signal to the computer, which makes the character you are controlling perform an action. And so with a joystick, what do you want? Well, for me, I think you want a strong stick to be able to maneuver, and you want good micro switches. Now, micro switches, what does what's the difference in them? I have found through my years of using joysticks and taking them apart that micro switches come in various operation forces and strengths. So you might wonder why I have 5 matches here. These are just to show you the difference between micro switches. So I ordered some from Farnell. I think it was Farnell I ordered them from. And so here you have a micro switch part V7, whatever it is, operating force 0.015 newtons. So if I use this this match here, you can see it takes absolutely 0 power to push it in. So that might even be too loose to use in a joystick, because any kind of movement would be making the character move when maybe you don't want it to. So this micro switch is 0.98 newtons, and again, it's not as loose, but it's good. And so these are micro switches which I've taken out of other joysticks which I've either broken or which have need to be taken apart for spare parts. So let's see, this one is nice and loose. This one, now I don't know if you can hear that, but it's after cracking there. The match is after cracking, and that is why I'm using matches, to show you the reason why you want good micro switches. You don't want your micro switch to be having to pushed in so hard that it's going to be putting too much force on the joystick. So move on to this one. That's difficult as well. It would in, but it's difficult. This micro switch, no problem, and this one, no problem as well. So if you look at this micro switch push, I really have to put pressure on that, and if you think of the inside mechanisms of a joystick, that's not good. For example, I will show you the inside of the Cruiser so you will understand why that's important. Let me just unscrew this Cruiser. So, as you can see, you move the joystick, you toggle this, and this moves against the micro switches here. And what you will see is the micro switches are standing on stilts. If you can see that there, it's not that easy to make out, but what that means is when you're pushing against the joystick like this, not only is the micro switch taking the pressure, but the stilts, for want of a better word, which it is sitting on, is also taking it. And so if you can see here, when I when I push the joystick, it's actually moving the whole micro switch, which means that after a while of back and forward, up and down, these stilts will break, and then once they break, this joystick is no good. So if you take out these micro switches and put in a light micro switch like this, then it'll be much easier. And so you can see in your joystick you got your 4 micro switches. Each one triggers either up, down, left or right in your game that you're playing. So the black wire gets attached to the terminal, which is on the side of the micro switch, and that black wire runs to each micro switch and up to the fire button and runs back to your computer. And then on the other end of the micro switch, the thin end, you have the colored wires. So you got brown, white, green and blue, all those micro switches, and they go in through the wire and into your joystick also. So what we'll do is we will take out one micro switch at a time and switch it around. If you take out all 4, you can do that, but you need to have some sort of identification on each wire so that you know that this color represents up, this color represents down, this color represents left, this color represents right, and then you can put them back in the right position. So I will start with this one. And so all micro switches have different widths of these terminals, and so sometimes they can be a little tight, so you just need to lever it off like that. Take that off, and then here use the micro switch as a leverage. Push it off like that. And so you will take out the old micro switch, leave it to the side, and then grab my new micro switch. So this micro switch is the operating force 0.98, and you can see it doesn't take much power. If you compare that with this, so I'll hold them side by side like that, and very easy. Not so easy. So immediately you'll be able to see that there's going to be a big difference in the joystick. It's going to be so much easier to control. So you get the joystick, you get the micro switch which will go into your joystick, and it probably goes without saying, but the button part faces in towards the stick, and so there's 2 holes in your micro switch, which you can see there. See the white through it. Those 2 holes will go on to, in this joystick there is the kind of stilts which they go on to, so just put them on like so, and then you will attach the black cable to the top. Now you can see that goes on very easily, almost too easily, where it might slip out, and I will just test this wire also, and that's a little loose as well. So what I'm going to do is I will use my pliers here just to give them a slight tighten. You don't have to put too much pressure on, just enough to close it a small bit so that it won't be slipping once you put the cover back onto the joystick. And so I will slip this on. Slip that on. There. So that is the black one, and the brown wire goes in there. That needs to be tightened also. So I will just tighten it a small bit. And then put that on. Then you place it back like so. And so that is your first micro switch changed. This micro switch is the new one. These are all the old ones. And so now it is just a matter of repeating the process, taking off one at a time, removing the black and the colored wire and replacing them. So So there you go, that is 4 micro switches changed, and if I move the joystick now, you can see very little pressure is needed whatsoever to make that move, and there's little if no movement in the micro switches also, so that should improve the joystick's performance hugely. Lastly, this feels okay. It feels quite easy to touch, so I won't bother changing this. There's no need to do overkill on the micro switches unless it's necessary, and so I will just put this back together. There is this bar which goes into the joystick as a kind of a lever, so when the buttons get pressed, this part of the bar here, that's not even visible. So it goes into the joystick like this. It goes in like this. So when the joystick gets pushed, the bar goes like this, pushes that, which pushes the micro switch. And so that's it's a pretty simple mechanism, so I'll put that in. So there you go, it is so much looser than it was previously, and all it takes was a simple change of 4 micro switches. So this is now ready for lots of gaming years ahead of it. So hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial. I am planning on maybe doing more tutorials of how to fix other joysticks. I don't proclaim myself to be any kind of a guru on the matter, but I have taken apart and fixed joysticks and fixed my own zip stick and changed the micro switches in lots of joysticks that I've had, so I'm happy to share any information which I may be able to pass on. So if you did find this helpful, give it a like or share with someone who may also find it interesting or may be able to use the knowledge to their advantage with some of their gaming joysticks. Okay, that's about it. Thank you very much for watching and happy gaming.